like Canada and Canadian fans. But now every place I get, they get louder. So you gotta show me that you can get louder than any place else we've been. Let me hear you one more time. Make some noise! You guys know the drill, baby. In about 5 minutes, everybody you're here to see will be up on your stage. But you know what you gotta do? You gotta help me motivate them. I want you to shout, scream, yell. I know you got your favorites, but I want you to make as much noise as you can. And I can promise you, baby, if you do, tomorrow night, it will get buck wild up in here. Yeah. So now remember, when they come up on the stage, I want to hear you make some noise. You guys make sure we're here for the first time. Make sure you get your UFC gear up back. One more time, Calgary.
All right, welcome to Happy Hour with Lito. I am your host. I got a special guest today, y'all. Former manager of Smokin Joe Frazier, and he's also been involved in the UFC promotion. I'll let him get into all of that. The legend himself, Burt Watson. How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm trying to make it, baby. How about yourself, Carlito?
Yes, sir. So, what I do, with a lot of my guests, I like to, I'm an advocate for, mental health and everything through the times that we're in. So I want to just ask, how have you been able to function through this COVID-19?
Very easy. You listen to the science. You listen to exactly what's going on around you. You look at what's going on around you. You pay attention to what's going on around you. And you keep in mind and realizing that your safety is the safety of the ones that you love. Your safety is the safety of your family members. I got 5 grandchildren, baby. And, I love them and love being with them, and I love life. So it's pretty easy for me to just kind of sit back and get a full understanding of everything. But that's how I work. That's how I handle my business.
Yes, sir.
And that's how I work with fighters. You got to sit back and, it's you don't just listen to things. I believe in hearing it.
Right.
Because when you listen to things, they go over your head. When you hear things, you digest it. So,
yes, sir.
But it's been good. I've sat around and just kind of taking everything in. I just heard a double voice. Was that me or was that you?
No, that was my iPhone, Siri.
Okay. Was it, I thought that Nick hack you got on was talking.
This thing, it just talks.
I'm not going at that right away, but
I'm not a Knicks fan. I actually am a Miami Heat fan, but we'll get into that.
Okay, all right, you double talking, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But I just listening, and I'm very proudly. I am totally vaccinated. I made sure I got that done, and at a point now where I can probably start doing a little work now, because I haven't done anything since last March.
Okay.
But now being fully vaccinated, and as of tomorrow, I will be 14 days from my second vaccination. So, man.
How you feel? You feel good?
Excellent. I had no side effects. I'm scared of needles, so I was a little skittish about that. But I had no side effects. I had no fever, nothing. My arm just, my arm was stinging a little bit, but I just put some methylated alcohol on, green alcohol, and rubbed it down. That's what I do with the fighters. So. But I'm good. So I'm feeling good. My mental is good. My psyche's good. And I'm ready to get back on the road, baby.
Let's go.
Ready to roll.
So for the people who may not know exactly who you are, can you give us a little bit about, what you do?
Well, my name is Burt Watson. Not that I make a big thing of that. You got to do what you got to do, baby.
That's right.
But I've been involved in combat sports for the past 30, 40 years, which is a long time to say that, but I've been involved in combat sports. Started in boxing and did boxing for about 15, 20 or so, and then transitioned from boxing to MMA. During my boxing time, I was with Smokin Joe Frazier. We were friends and partners and roadies and road dogs, and eventually became his manager. Once he, his boxing career was over, became his manager, and I worked with him for a period of time, which was absolutely the best, some of the best times of my life, because I got to meet people and work with people and touch people and be in the presence of Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Ken Norton, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Oscar De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins, Julio Cesar Chavez, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard. Should I stop? Camacho, Camacho. And I during my time in boxing, I worked with the only person that I never really had the opportunity to work with one way or another was Lennox Lewis. Anybody else, Shannon Briggs,
Shannon the Cannon,
anybody that you can name one way or another during my time, I either worked directly with them or an event that they were involved in, Arturo Gatti. And I did that for a period of time. And then I kind of chance meeting, was in Las Vegas doing a boxing show, and one thing led to another, and a promoter that was promoting a show. And I always get this mixed up, but I'm okay. I got enough in my head to mix me up, okay? But I did it was Costa Zab Judah. I think Arturo Gatti and Oscar De La Hoya, but I did the show, and in between the weigh-in and the show itself, the promoter had a conversation with a guy on the phone and said to me, "Hey, Burt, I got this guy on the phone that's trying to do something, and he needs some good people. He needs some help." But that's what I do. I'm a coordinator. I'm a consultant, event coordinator. Whatever it is, whatever the event is, if I can get to it, I can do it. Gotcha. I didn't rhyme that intentionally, but believe me, if I can get to it, I can do it.
You always rhyming.
Yeah. You know what? And it comes out that way, baby. It sounds good to me. But so he set up a meeting with that guy, and that guy was Dana White. And he was putting together the UFC, which he presented to me. Damn, there I go rhyming again. Oh man, now I'm gonna be conscious of that. But he did that, and was starting the organization, and I, pay me and respect me. You got me, baby.
That's right. That's right.
And the first one I did was UFC 30 in 2001, I think it was. But and I did that for 14 to 15 years. And that was also, glorious years, because I started when it started, in its infancy. The UFC that it is today, from when it came, and I saw Randy Couture as my rookie.
Okay.
When anybody came to me, they were a rookie. Okay. So, between Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz and Matt Hughes and Matt Serra, Matt Franklin, Rich Franklin, and, George St. Pierre, BJ Penn, you name them. So I had that transition, and it was an awesome situation that I got involved in, because it went from where it was to where it is today. And my job, as it was in boxing, was to create the situation that allowed that situation to flow, allowed that situation to work, to get to know fighters, to get to know their habits and their needs and their deeds and what they needed to train and to get to know their personalities and also to get to know a little bit about, not a little bit, shit, a lot about MMA, because I knew nothing.
Right.
That was my first time. I knew absolutely nothing about MMA. I was thrown in the fire. I knew about wrestling, which we called wrestling.
Right.
You know, I'm a hood rat. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
Wrestling. Okay? You may not be a hood rat, but I know what I'm talking about. So I knew what that was, and I was very familiar with Bruce Lee and that form of martial arts, which was entertainment, but I had no conception of what mixed martial arts was. But I got indoctrinated very quickly, and I had to learn as I went along. And it was an experience in my life that I will never ever forget, because it was me doing what I did best to make it work. I was never asked or questioned about what I did or how I did it, but I was always expected to do it, and was always expected to do it right. So doing it right was doing it at the highest level.
Right.
And as you know, shit, it was definitely at the highest level. And
Definitely.
It took off, man, big time. And I had it right here, baby. I was pulling that plow, baby. You know, but it was definitely a good time. It was interesting to learn the techniques and the technical skill levels of the guys and see them develop, to see it develop.
Right.
You know, it was amazing, man. You know, to see the development of a sport that has now become a global, worldwide sport. You know, to see the development of that, and the athletes, and to also to be a part of or a witness to women coming into that sport.
Right.
You know, they came in kicking ass.
That's right.
And not taking names, baby. You know, and that was impressive. But I've always been fortunate enough to be a part of that and the women's movement. And what a time to say that, with this being a celebration of women and women athletes. But to see that, starting with in female sports with Christy Martin, if you know who she is, going back to Christy Martin and Jacqueline Frazier Lyde, who's Joe Frazier's daughter, and you know, Muhammad Ali's daughter, Layla Ali, who had 25 fights, and I worked 23 of them.
Wow.
And we still communicate today. She got me and my wife in the kitchen trying her recipes, which but that was amazing to see that and see that development, and to see her now where she is now as a mom and an entrepreneur, and the development of that. And then you transition into MMA. The first time I shook hands with Ronda Rousey, who was the very first.
That's right.
And along with everybody else, I was told that would never happen. That women were never going to be in that sport, you know, that it wasn't for them.
Yeah, and look now, look at now, you know, one of the greatest fighters ever.
I ain't gonna call nobody out, but I will definitely go on the record. You can turn this up, baby. right now, I think Amanda Nunez would give anybody a rough time if the weight class was right. Okay. So, to see Ronda Rousey come in, and I think that first fight was against Liz Carmouche.
Right.
See Kat Zingano, Jessica I, Marion Renault, Holly Holmes, Joanna Chesnick, it's just amazing, man. Jessica, and I'm gonna stop naming names because I know everybody, and if I miss a name, I'm gonna hear about it. So I'm gonna stop naming names, but it's been quite the experience to see the development of that, along with the development of the sport, because it definitely went to a whole nother level. And I don't watch it a lot.
Okay.
But I stay aware of what's going on, and I can see the development of it. And boy, do I see the development, because I know what I've been around boxing and MMA a long time, so I saw when guys when technical skill levels went from this to this, and I mean serious, it went to that level, to a level of explicit technical skill level, and it's even gotten better now.
That's
guys
true.
More athletic, and they're bigger, and they're stronger, and even the little ones are strong. But it's been quite the ride, baby.
So so ultimately, how did you end up even getting into the boxing business? Like, did you know? So I know you said you and Joe Frazier were friends. Did it just come from that, or you that was something that you just took a chance at?
Chance meeting, man. I believe in the Almighty, and I met Joe Frazier on a humbug, on a chance. Met him twice. First time I'm in New York, walking down the street, car accident. He's not in the accident, but there was an accident that his car had to sit and wait. He got out, we met, and me being the person, I wasn't too talkative. But you know what? I did what I had to do, and I went up to him, and we talked and exchanged, information. And ironically, he's from Philly and I'm from Philly, so that was like, damn, And then fast forward a couple of years later, my niece gets married in Philadelphia and has a wedding, and one of the presents that somebody gave her for her wedding was a limousine service for her wedding, to take her from my mom's house to the church. Okay. Sitting in the living room, and the limo pulls up. Go outside to talk, and I'm cutting the story short. And I go outside to tell the guy in the limo to pull over. The guy rolls the window down, and it's Smokin Joe Frazier. Put that in your pipe, man. How does something like that happen? I go outside and to tell the limo driver to park the car, and he rolls the window down, and I look in the window, and there's Smokin Joe Frazier. He had a limo service and came in that day to the gym, picked up the clipboard, and there was a job on the clipboard and no driver. So being the person that he is, and he was Joe Frazier. He was just plain old Joe. He went out, he got the key, he hopped in the car, and he drove, found the address, and drove to the house.
Wow.
And honked the horn. And I went there and knocked on the window. My nephew first said, that limo driver's out there, but he looked like somebody, I don't know exactly who, but he looked like somebody. So I said, you go tell that looking like somebody to park their car, because Denise wasn't ready. So and I said, you know what, I'll go do that. I went out there, he rolled the window down, and there it was. It was Joe Frazier sitting in the car. Wow. And I I was kind of stunned. Well, I was stunned, but again, you again. That's what that was. And because we had met before, it was like, how does this happen?
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. So we talked and chatted, and since I was in Philly, and we just kind of decided to, let's just put this to work. We was hanging out together, and and running around and hanging out, and running around and hanging out. Now he had finished boxing then, because his last fight was in 1981 against Jumbo Cummings, so he wasn't fighting anymore. Mm-hmm. But it was like, you know what? Let's just hang out. Yeah. I'll hang out with Smokin Joe Frazier. Well, we did that for a little while, and about 3 months into that, 2 or 3 months into that, I pulled him aside and I said to him, you know what, bro? You're going to have to do one of two things. You're going to either have to hire me or leave me the hell alone. Because I can't hang. I couldn't hang like that no more.
Yeah.
And you know what he did? He gave me a chair. Told me to sit in it. And that was it, man. And it was just like that. That's exactly the way it happened. And I sat down in that chair, and I sat in that chair until 1997, when things started slowing down a little bit. Boxing started really, I started to get a little more into boxing on a level where people knew who I was and recognized me, meaning promoters. They recognized me as a coordinator, because by that time, being with Joe, I had worked with Don King and Lou Duva and HBO and Showtime and USA Today, and because USA was about the first network that put boxing on before on a regular basis on Tuesday nights, before the other networks did. So they knew who I was. So it started to snowball for me.
All right.
So I jumped out and I took the shot, man, and I jumped in it on all fours, man. And it was, I can sit now like I'm sitting with you and I talk,
right?
But the fights that I worked and the people that I met during my time of boxing, unbelievable. Today is March the 10th, which now I just dated your interview, so I just dated your interview, but March 8th, 2021, was 50 years from the day that Joe and Muhammad fought at Madison Square Garden in New York. 50 years, bro.
Wow. The
greatest heavyweight fight in the history of fighting. And I don't care who's looking at this and who doubts that, holler at me, okay? And I'll run the tape back for you. If it wasn't that one, you got 3 of them to pick from. You could pick one of the 3. But it was 50 years that happened. And, to even have been around, I had someone give me a call a couple of days ago, about a week and a half ago. And they were celebrating that 50 years of that fight and were looking for people who were still around. So I said to him, so you're looking for people who ain't dead, okay? Is that what you're telling me? And well, he put it a little differently, but there's very few, I think, who were around and there or had anything to do with it. I think he found maybe 4 people, 3 or 4 people.
Okay.
That was amazing, man. It was, it's all been a blessing, bro. All of it, every bit of it.
So going into the UFC, they label you the babysitter to the stars, right? What type of what type of job did you actually have to do outside of, you know, making sure that the fighters were on weight?
Well, it started when, from the time Joe Silva, who was the matchmaker then,
Joe
from the
Silva.
time he made all the matches, they gave me the bout sheet. So it was my job, along with initially, you know, I eventually had a group of people working with me to help make that happen. But the job was, number one, to get a hotel. Number two, to get hotel rooms, to put the fighters in the hotel rooms, to make sure they were in the right hotel rooms. Because there's an art to that, bro. Trust me. You know, you don't want to have the two guys on the main event fighting each other in a suite next to each other.
Oh yeah, not at all.
You can't have that. Or even the guys that are on the prelims fighting each other next to each other. So there was an art to putting together the hotel rooms. Once you put the hotel rooms together, you got into the hotel. You kind of created space within the hotel because they needed workout. They needed a place to work out. They needed a place to rest. They needed a place to put their equipment. So you had to put all that together. And then during the course of the week, you know, I would go someplace and do groundwork. And the groundwork was my observation of the hotel. And most of that shit was pretty easy for me because I spent 3 years in the Marine Corps. So okay. I know how to do observations and maneuver and setting things up. And even to the point of going out and finding the closest grocery store. The fighters had to go do grocery shopping. Then I had to find the closest pharmacy. Then I made sure I found the closest doctor and the closest gym and the closest fitness center. All those things that I know I would need within the course of a week. I had to coordinate that and make sure all of that. Then I had to coordinate a way to make sure that the fighters got there and didn't get there on their own, because I'm going to tell you something. When you had fight week and you got all the fighters together, if you didn't grab a hold of that, it's like ants at a picnic, bro. I'm telling you, you don't grab a hold of it and you don't coordinate all of it, it's all over the place. But that's any event that you coordinate. It's like that. So I created a situation that put all those things in place. Every one of them. The workout rooms, getting matched for the workout rooms, getting the right match, getting matched that last, getting matched that we could travel with, because we traveled from city to city. I had to wash those mats down 3 times a day. So I had guys that washed those mats down 3 times a day, because never once did I have in my 14 years, this is a long time and a lot of mat work, that I have anybody get any type of staph or infection.
That's
from
awesome.
My mats not being clean. I had to get that done. I had to make sure that I had sufficient scale. I had to know where to go get those scales certified, because the fighter stepped on the scale every day, you know, and he stepped on a scale for one reason, to check his weight, so it better be right.
Right.
So I had to make sure that that was there. And I also had to make sure if I came in a workout room and the fighter was sitting on a scale, I had a fit. You know, he got a cursing outcome. Okay, what the hell you doing sitting on that scale? But the first time you go in there and that scale ain't right, first person he's coming to is me.
Right.
So I had to kind of make sure. So I made sure the scales were right and that they worked, and I had scales for the weigh-in. Once the weigh-in was over, I was good. But I had to secure that. Then I had to make sure that we had the rooms were right, the rooms were set up right, the rooms were the right temperature, because you couldn't have a room. All rooms had to be 65 degrees or higher. I'm talking about workout and dressing rooms.
Wow.
Then I had to create and set up the dressing rooms. But I had to put people in the dressing room. The last thing I needed was to create a dressing room and put up a dressing room and have a fighter or somebody go by and see a name on there and say, I'm not going in that room with that guy. You know, can't do that fight night. So what I got to do is sit. And when I tell you, you don't just listen to stuff, because stuff, when you listen, goes over you got to hear it, because you got to digest it. So I have to have conversations. So I know who to put in what workout rooms or who to put in what dressing rooms. So I had that was a task that I had to do. But I had to do that without offending anybody and without asking anybody. But I learned how to do that, and I learned how to do that pretty good, you know.
Who was the hardest fighter you had to work with?
Hardest fighter.
Just made it tough. Made the experience just a tough week.
Well, I'll tell you this. Without mentioning his name, he only had 2 fights there because the second fight he was gone. Because he said something that he shouldn't have said to me, and I went to Joe Silva, and I went to Mr. White, and I said, you know what, y'all got him. I don't want to see him again. Because if you're going to disrespect me, I'm done with you. Now, I would never challenge anybody, but I wouldn't back down from anybody. You know, I couldn't roll the way they could roll, but I know how to roll. But I didn't need it to go to that level. So he was gone. He was there 2 fights and he was gone. But for the most part, once I learned, Carlito, how to listen and hear things and digest things, I put them in motion. So I didn't have a problem with any fighter other than that one guy. I've never had a problem because I always, I listened, I heard everything, and then I reacted to it.
Did you watch UFC 259?
Start, yes.
What you think about Izzy?
Now you're gonna get me in trouble. Well, let me say this.
Do you think he should have went up so soon?
Okay. Here's what I'm saying, and I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna say. Weight classes are there for a reason. There's a reason they have weight classes. They have weight classes so you can fight within those classes, so that everybody that you compete with in that class is as equal in strength and for the most part technical, because strength is a whole different. Initially, when the UFC first started, you had guys at, I think Vitor Belfort, when in UFC 15, he was 180 and fought somebody 250.
Yeah, no weight classes.
Yeah, there was no weight classes, but weight classes are there for a different, for a reason. And I think when you have a guy that's bigger in weight class, and regardless, if they're in the UFC, they are technically skilled. Period. All of them. There are no chumps in the UFC or in mixed martial arts. None of them. Bellator, PFL, none of them. They all can fight. And they're all in their weight classes. When you go to another weight class, they tell you especially when it's heavyweight, when they put that big body on you, they know how to use that body. And I think when you go up to a weight class, another weight class, you got to be prepared for that variance. And you got to be prepared for what they do in that weight class to survive. Yeah. You get the smaller guys at 135 and 145, their thing is speed and moving around and chasing them. You get up to 55, they're still running a little bit. But you get up to 70, 85, they slow it down a little bit. And they're using that power. You get up to heavyweight, they're doing this to you. Okay? And once they put their hands on you, I take nothing away from his technical skill level. But I will say that when you go up in weight like that, and that's 20-pound weight difference, correct?
Well, 185, 15. Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. 20 pounds, yeah.
And I think he went in at 200.
201 is what he weighed in.
Okay. And
but he probably didn't hydrate. That's probably him hydrating and everything. I don't think he, had to cut any weight. Maybe.
No, well, probably not, because normally guys walk around anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds above their weight. walk around. And I've seen him cut as much. The most I've ever seen anybody cut was 26 pounds.
Wow.
You know? So they walk around within that. But I'm a very strong believer that weight classes are there for a reason.
Right.
Now, there are guys that can adjust to a weight class, sometimes because of their length and because of their width and their girth. You know, take somebody like John Jones, who is
the man. That's the man right there.
6'1", 6'2", and slender, but he's big for his weight class. And I think his adjustment to heavyweight, because of the fact that he probably walks around
220,
225 or something like that. So you know what? To stay at that weight and still be as technically skilled, yeah, I think he could do that. But yeah, I saw 259.
We'll see. I mean, Francis Ngannou, nobody wants to get hit by him.
Yeah. Well, nobody really wants to get hit. But that's also the technical challenge of a heavyweight is that they all can hit. But let me tell you something. Aside from judging, now in just judging the fight, you got 10 to 12 ways to win. Because you got a draw, a technical draw, a split decision, a majority decision, a no decision, you know, undecided, you know, a unanimous decision, a split decision, you know,
majority decision.
Majority decision. That's about 10 different ways. Now, from a technical skill level, you got another 15 ways to win a fight. From a rear naked to a whole naked, half naked. Okay, you know, side mount, leg lock, foot lock, arm bar, guillotine. You got about 15 different ways to win a fight.
Kimura, yeah, everything.
So with that many variables, I never, ever totally pick a fight where I can say a guy is totally outclassed. Because there's too many ways to win a fight, man. Too many ways to win a fight.
Anything can happen at any given night.
I think that Ngannou, he you know, when that guy got on top of him, that was that weight, that was that mass, that was a way of winning the fight. I saw the one,
yeah.
I saw the one with not that it was the correct way to win a fight, but I saw the one with Sterling.
Oh yeah, the illegal knee.
Look how he won his fight.
Disqualification.
There's too many ways to win a fight for you to, you know, unless you're, you know, you're a hustler. And I didn't say hustler. Okay?
With an A, right.
Right. You know how to do that Vegas odds and stuff like that. But I don't stay with that because there's too many ways to win a fight to say 100% that the guy doesn't stand a chance. You got too many chances.
Right. Is there a rule in MMA, just like in boxing, that once you cut weight, you can't blow up past a certain weight?
Yeah, well,
once you hydrate.
It depends on the state. There are rules for that. There are rules that the state commission, the athletic commission, can come in and say, for a title fight or a non-title fight, they can say, if you weigh 155 today at the weight, you can't be over 15 pounds tomorrow. They can say that, you know. For a title fight, they can say if this title fight is 145 tomorrow, you can't be 156. So they weigh them the day of the fight to make sure that they're not. So yes, there are rules in place that can be applied to identify that and say that you cannot exceed a certain weight the day after weighing. Yes, sir.
So after your long glorious tenure with the UFC, you left.
Yes,
Are
sir.
you able to talk about that today?
I'm 72 years old, son.
I always ask because I don't,
I know. And I was a little bit smug when I said that. but yeah, yes, of course I can talk about it. You asked me. I live right. And I don't lie, I don't cheat, and I don't steal. So I'm good with anything I say. And with today's technology, I can tell you, man, all people do is push Google. Is that how you spell Google? All they do is push Google. That pops up. So go ahead and ask your question, baby.
So what led to you, what situation happened that led to you actually saying, you know what, I'm done. I've had it. I'm out of here.
We did a fight in California, and I don't want to mention his name, but I will because he was the main event. Mark Munoz was the main event. And when guys get on a scale and don't make weight, what you do is you give them, depending on how much weight, you give them an hour or two to come back, go do something and come back to make that weight. And that's even today. You can do that. Commission can do that. Guys a pound or two over when it's a title fight. Well, title fight's a little different because I think a title fight is scale on, scale out, period. You don't get another shot. But in between, you get a chance to go and cut. Mark Munoz came in and he didn't make weight and he had a couple of hours to cut weight. So he did that. So he came back after he cut weight. Now, there was a gentleman who was there who was the UFC's, he was the one that authorized sponsorships and was taking care of everything, but they had hired him as a new executive, high-level executive. And Mark Munoz came back, he made weight, and I sat there for 2 hours waiting for Mark to make weight. Mark came back, he made that weight, he came back, and he looked at me and he said, Mr. Burt, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry too. I'm pissed like hell, but you know what? You made weight, so we good. Now, the hotel where we had to weigh in and where the hotel was 3 blocks away, walking distance. So I figured, I said, you know what? He just messed up a little bit, so I'm gonna play Papa Bear with him. I'm gonna make him walk back. So you know what? I got in the van and I did that. I had the guy take me to the hotel and I said, you go back and get that scale. And you know what? That Mark and then walked back to the hotel. It was 3 blocks away. There was no, that was me being Papa Bear, babysitter to the star.
Right.
So the guy who was the overseer of all of the sponsors and he was a guy they had hired, they had put it at a high level. Well, he at times took advantage of that high level. He acted like he was at that high level. So I got back to the hotel and I got a phone call and it was him. And the first thing he said was, where are you? Just like that. Where are you? And I said, huh? He said, where are you? And I said, I'm in my room, which I was. And I had just had a shot of Grand Marnier and just chilled. That's what I drink, Grand Marnier, and I chase it with a Heineken, baby. and I said, I'm in my room. He said, what are you doing in your room? There was 2 wrong questions. I said, I'm in my room because the weigh-in's over and everything's done. And he said to me, where the hell is Mark Munoz? Well, first of all, he had no business cursing him. Okay. I won't say what I want to say, but I'm just saying he was totally wrong by that point. I said, by now he might be back at the hotel because I made him walk. And then he said, well, how did you get back here? He was up to 4, bro. And I said, I took the van and I made him walk. And that man said to me, you know what? Your ass should have walked and gave him that ride. Well, when he said that, he got Mad Burt, Philly Burt, Bad Burt all at once. Because I went at him. Yeah. And I could have been a little less aggressive with what I said, but when he got to that point, I felt he questioned my integrity, he questioned my work ethic.
Absolutely.
He questioned me, he questioned my policies, and he totally verbally disrespected me. And I was not gonna have that. And I went off at him. And I asked him where he was. He was downstairs. And I went at him again. And I threw a few MFs and whatever I could say. And he said, well, you know what, if you don't like what's going on. And I said, well, if you don't like what's going on, you kiss my wrist. Okay. And a few F's and, you know, and you know what, just if that's what you think, just give me my ticket and I'll go home.
Was that Mark Munoz versus Chris Weidman?
I forgot who that was. You'd have to look that up.
Okay.
Because it was UFC 184, 85.
184, okay.
But I told him to kiss my wrist, and if he felt that, he should leave. And he said, no, you're the one that needs to leave. And it went off. And you know what I did? I left. The very next morning, I got up and I went downstairs, and all of the executives had come to me and said, what the hell happened? And I'm like, what do you mean what happened? They said, we heard that you quit and told everybody to kiss your ass. Just like that. Well, yeah, I did tell him that, and I did tell him, but I didn't tell everybody else to do that. And you know what? And then I asked where Dana was, and Dana was gone. So you know what I did? I went to the airport and came home. And that was how that happened, you know. And I know it's been said a lot of other different ways, but that's exactly how it happened. And then this guy, 3 weeks later, they had a fight in Houston, and I wasn't there. Now, when I left, they had to compensate for me being gone. I won't say how many people they told me that they put in there to hold that spot up while I wasn't there. But at the end of the fight, Anthony Pettis lost his title, and I think so highly of her. The little young lady. I'll think of her name, but she lost her title as well. And I wasn't there, but I heard
Carla Esparza.
that, yes, she's one of my faves, but they all are my faves. They're my kid. But they said that they went to the hospital. He went to the hospital, and it was all screwed up. But it was said that Anthony and them said to Dana that if Burt Watson was here, that would not have happened.
Pettis, one of my favorite fighters too. I love Pettis.
This happened on Saturday or Sunday. Monday, Dana White fired that guy. This was 3 weeks later. Dana White fired him. Now, I was gone, so now he was gone. You know, 3 weeks later, but he got fired. And you know, I didn't see Dana for about a year or two later. He didn't call me, never called me, never spoke about it, never said a word. I'm good with that. I just moved on, man.
You think if he would have called, maybe you would have came back?
100%. 100%.
So you kind of felt like he didn't kind of appreciate who you know.
Well, I didn't get a call. You know, and you call your fighters, man. You call your top guys. You know, I was the top guy, man. I was shit.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not just slinging that. You know, I'm talking what I know I earned. And I heard nothing. I got no phone call, no questions, no nothing. So you know what? I stayed home and I shut down. And then about 4 months into it, my son, you know, I got 4 grown children and I got 5 grandchildren. My son is a wrestling coach and a football coach in New Jersey. And he called me and he said, Dad, he said, have you been reading the media, the internet? And I told him no, I stayed away from it. He said, well, it's on fire. And he said to me, I think, have you spoken to anybody? And I said, no, I haven't spoken to anybody about me leaving. He said, well, I think you need to say something because they putting their spin on it. So I picked up the phone and I called somebody I knew that would get it out. And then at the time, Boss Rudin and a guy, I think his name was Kenny Fisher, maybe, they had a show called MMA Weekly, which was on. So I called them. And right from where I'm sitting right now in my office, they sent a camera crew and they did a show and they had me on live. And I told them, I told them, you know. But I let them know that, because the first thing got out there, Dana and I had words and, you know, and I cursed somebody out and Dana cursed me out and then Dana fired me. And there was none of that. That didn't happen. Somebody said the wrong shit to me and questioned my integrity, period. And, you know, if I didn't have a couple of shots in Grand Marnier, maybe I wouldn't have taken it that way. I don't know. But, you know, it's no one lets anybody question their integrity.
That's true.
No one. And I was, you know, and I hear it now all the time. Man, you walked away from the best job in the world. I know that. But that, you know, I'm a hood rat from Philly, bro.
Last question, Mr. Watson. Is there anything that, you know, you got going on that you want to promote? Anything you got coming up that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, right now I started promoting my own shows. I did my first show in Fort Lauderdale, and 3 months later, you know, we had 2020, and that killed me for 3 dates. You know, so I haven't promoted a show. But since then, what I started to do, I'm doing what you do. I started a podcast.
Legend to Legend, right?
Legends to Legends, you know, and it's on MMA Junkie. And I am very, very proud of it. And right now, if you go to MMA Junkie or send me, you know, or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, I'll send you a link to the last show. I did the last show with Quentin Rampage Jackson. And I'm going to tell you, man, it's all that. And this is where I sit and I have what I call OG chatter. It's not an interview. It's a conversation.
Right. And
for the most part, it's a conversation about things that we know about. You know, I can legitimately talk to a guy about his time as a fighter or his family or things that I've had real conversation with. But it's called Legends to Legends, and it's guys that I sit down and who have made their mark in the sport, and you know, George St. Pierre, Randy Couture, Vito Belfort. I'm gonna run the gambit, male and female, and Legend to Legend keeps it wide open for me because they're legends in all sports.
Yes.
And for the most part, I'm gonna be reaching out, but I love doing that and I enjoy doing it. So please catch it. And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I can guarantee you can vouch for me. If you holler at me, I'm gonna holler back at you, baby.
That's right. He a real one. He a real one for sure.
Yeah, I'll holler back at you. I'll holler back at you. And if you holler back too much, trust me, I'll get you.
Well, I want to thank you, like from the bottom of my heart. This was awesome for me. You know what I mean? Because I seen, you know, you on stage with Anderson Silva and with with Rampage when they were weighing in and things of that nature, and even when people were about to fight each other on stage, you know,
Right in there.
he was right in there. So I deeply appreciate this. One time, you know what I mean, to close out the show, can you say we rolling?
Man, you got to be right for that. You got to be right. That was only when it was time to go to work.
When it was time to work.
When it was time to go to work. Because, you know, this is what we do and why we do it. And I said to everybody, your night, your fight, you need to get it right, baby. You know, because then it's time to go to work. And when it's time to go to work, you know what that means, baby. It's time to go to work. We got a 5-0. We got 30-30 before we roll that hole. We rolling! Yeah!
Yes, sir. All night long. Boom. It's Happy Hour with Lito.
Everybody knows somebody. Everybody loves somebody. Prostate cancer can get to anybody. Awareness, you get tested, and you get treated. You never know how much you don't know until you need to know it. 2 years ago, I got tested and I got cleared. A year later, I got tested, I got diagnosed, and then I got treatment. I'm a cancer survivor. I don't want anyone to ever go through what I did. While prostate cancer affects everyone, it's especially prevalent in African American men. Hey, listen, I know you don't like to go to the doctor, but early detection, man, is key. It only takes 5 minutes to get it done. If I can come out and share my message with the whole world, I know you can share yours. So be a hero and share this message. Help support this cause by going to zerocancer.org/Burt. Together, let's knock out prostate cancer, baby. We rollin'.